So everything dried. So I put in the linkages, and I've also put this little piece of shrink tubing that I'll shrink over this right here after I get it exactly where I want it. That's it. Just let dry overnight, and then I took an X-Acto knife, oops, and cut out the slot here and the slot at the top so that the control surface was free. I set the servo to neutral. Well, you can hardly even see where that's a pretty good neutral. I've just got a little servo tester here and a little battery. So there's the thing at neutral. I'll take that for a neutral. It's pretty good neutral. And here's it just running through its movements. That's a good amount of movement in my opinion. So let's see here. Put it all the way over one direction, turn it off, put it all the way over in the other direction, and we'll turn it back on and see how quick it moves from point to point. Pretty good. Oh, the servos are pretty good. So that's that. Now I'll cut that off. That's just the extra on the other side, and pull my little piece of shrink wrap up there, and then I'll hit that with the little heat. Without hitting the foam. There you go. So that's shrunk around there. So I did add a extension to the servo lead because of the way the vertical V-tails are going to go in the fuselage. I didn't have enough room. I think I forgot to mention, I did extend that just a hair with the hot knife, that slot, so that at the bottom the rod wouldn't stick out as far, because what I found is when I dry fitted it to the fuselage, where the rod stuck out, made that little indentation you can see right there in the fuselage, and then the seam between the V-tail and the fuselage had just a little bit of an opening. Didn't want to close completely, so I decided to extend that slot for that carbon fiber in the V-tail and move it that direction so this was sort of flush. It still sticks out just a 1/16 of an inch or so, but not like it was. And there it is, dry fitted to the fuselage half. And like I say, down here there's a little bit of a separation right along that line. Right there. It'll push down later, but it was a little bigger when that rod was hitting. I just realized I mounted my servos so that my servos are going to be on the bottom of the V-tail. It doesn't make a difference one way or another. I probably would have rather had them on top to protect them a little bit, but hopefully I won't have anything happening where they're even going to be harmed there. So we'll just reverse the throw in the software, compensate for that. So now then, I had to, here's where the servo wire comes out, and it stops right here in the fuselage, and the autopilot's going to be up here. So whoops, darn, got a mess here. I normally keep my table really clean. Right now it's a mess. So I added about 8-inch servo extension. Don't want to be pulling that too tight and stuff, but it'll be plugging in up here someplace into the autopilot, is my opinion. So that's why I had to put that on there. So I've just got the fuselage put together with a couple of rubber bands and the VTELs dry fitted in, and the servo tester on them, just checking everything out. Everything looks quite good to me. Again, let me shut that noise up. There we go. Again, I put the push rods on the bottom instead of the top. Just have to live with it. It's 6.5 dozen of the other to me. Now there is one other part. Just a second. I have this little 3D printed support to go between the VTELs to kind of, that's one reason that the carbon fiber spar is in it up through here on the other side, is to try to make it a little more rigid. This will just make it a little more rigid. In addition, that's just a bamboo shish kebab skewer, whatever you want to call it, that I'm just putting in there to keep these apart. I'm going to have to get another little carbon fiber rod and cut it myself to that length I'll need there. So I guess in one way it's kind of good. The linkages are on the bottom, this will be on the top, and again that's just to add a little rigidity to the VTELs. But we'll continue along another day. I said I would show this, and I'll probably address it a couple of times in the build. This is the center spar for the wings, and you can see there's these little mounting pieces that have a screw on them here, so you can, when you slide this in, you can screw this down and it'll hold the center spar. Now this piece goes inside the wing right here, you see, and there's one on each side. So this other one would go in over here, and then the two wings come together like that, and these two screws are tightened. That holds it together. This fourth part goes here in the bottom. You can barely see it in the picture. But there are these two others for the wing. And what happens with them is they actually go inside this and also inside here, to the point where they go all the way out this slot to this point in the wing. Oops, there we go. Oops, this point in the wing. Now you can see this comes in and goes down there. So that extends, this rod extends support out from this holder and both the holders hold the center wing. So the same thing would happen on the other side. This one goes all the way out to there, but you can see there how much it actually fits inside the other piece. So it would actually be like this. Get this out of the way and spread this out. There we go. It would actually be like that. Oops. Trying to get my second half over here straight. There we go. So there is how that 3-piece front spar for the wing works. And then again, as I said, there is a rear one. Let me back this up just a little bit. Maybe that'll be better all the way around. This one goes in back here like this. So that's the 4 pieces. 1, 2 out on the end, center 3, and then 4th one in the back. So do have a couple of other little problems here. First, easy to fix. The servo wire only came to here for the wing channel, so I did have to put another little 8-inch servo extension on it. That'll be down inside in the autopilot. Had to do that on both sides, of course. That's one problem. That was simple to fix. Just stick on the servo extension. So now if we look at this servo linkage, you can see in that direction it does fine. As I come full in the other direction, see that linkage starting to bend right there? I'm not quite sure why that's going on. Probably wouldn't kill anything, but I will try to figure out what's going on there. Of course, it doesn't have a problem in that direction. I've got the nut loose right here on the little connector. I had to make this hole a little bigger. I don't think it's binding in here. I know it's not binding here because that nut is so loose right there. This can turn freely. I don't really think that the surfaces need working in. It might be that simple. I'm not sure at all. Let's look over here at our second one. And look at that. Now that one just bends. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That one really. And again, this nut right here is loose for now. And I don't think it's being caused by binding up here. But I just don't like it. So I will be trying to do something about that. But basic ailerons are working, basically. And I have a nice, very nice null point. So it's just dry fitted together. Like I say, I still have some problems with those linkages on the servos, but we'll work on them. I just put the servo tester in sweep mode, and you can see they're working the way they should. I bet with that linkage problem that I'll have to address. So there's 4 servos, all working after a fashion. Just needs some fine adjustment. There's not a whole lot more to do on the and they do get a neutral position really well, as you can see. And the other side, That's their neutral position. I couldn't ask for more on that. As far as the fuselage is concerned, of course, the motor mount has to be mounted in here. All of this has to be glued together, not the main wings, but the V-tails, I guess, supposed to be glued in. The two fuselage halves have to be glued together. Almost all the rest of it is, well, you have to mount the motor, prop, that kind of thing. Almost all the rest of it's electronics. The major portion of it is electronics. Now there are two boxes. They're over here. This is the little front FPV platform that goes on the front. I have to glue that together. And this is the little equipment compartment that I have to glue together. And it, of course, will go right in there on the inside, so I have to get those together. But as far as the physical build, that's taken care of, a lot of it. The rest of it, like I say, is just the electronics, the autopilot, the compass, the GPS, the telemetry, the FPV transmitter, the FPV camera or cameras, the RC receiver, all of that. So we're moving along. A few little problems to solve, but I'm sure they will be